Okay, in this video we're going to tackle our third project, which is going to be a soap dish. This is the first project where we'll see the use of components. There's a great way of organising your design to make it nice and clear, easy to follow, and a bit modular. Even just visually, see we have two components here. We've got our shell and we've got our grid. We're going to see some new tools that are going to allow us to do things very efficiently. So we're going to come up here, start a new design, and once again save that as soap dish. The first thing we're going to do is create a new component. So I'm going to come up here, new component, and we'll call this the outer shell. That's where we're going to start. At the moment, you see you've got shell is the active component, right? And right here we've got a blank timeline. We haven't done anything in it yet. However, if we go back to our initial top level component here, you can see we've got a different timeline, which is going to captivate everything that goes inside of that. If you have complicated designs, you don't want a huge number of different parts of each component cluttering that main timeline. Instead, we'll capture them inside here. So we've started a new component. We're going to create a sketch on that bottom plane. We're going to go create rectangle, center rectangle, and the dimensions I've chosen for this one are 80 by 120. Now we're going to add some fillets, because that's always a nice thing. So here, fillet, and for whatever reason, sometimes with the center rectangle, it doesn't like to do too many fillets all at once. So I'm just going to do 3, and then I'll put in the last one. Right click, and you can repeat the last command just there. 10 mil again. Perfect. Yeah, finish the sketch. And we're going to bring this up 30 mil. Wonderful. And we're going to shell this out. Remember, that doesn't cut all the way through. We're going to leave 2 mil of thickness, which should be enough for a soap dish. So there it is. Already we've got the beginnings of a nice shell. Next thing I want is some little legs for this soap dish grid to sit on. So I'm going to come in here. We're going to create a sketch just on the bottom of my soap dish. And once again, we want to project in this geometry because we're about to use an offset. We're going to put in all of those sections, go OK, and we're going to turn off the bodies. And see inside our components, we've got all the things we've seen before. So I'll turn off those bodies, and there we are. So first thing I want to do is offset that again by 2 mil. Actually, let's make those a little bit bigger. Let's go 4 mil. I don't need a lip all the way around. Instead, what I'll do is come in here, and we're just going to add a line just for this section here. Now, I could go around to all those corners, but we're actually going to use a thing called a mirror tool. Right, so the mirror tool means you can select some geometry and then mirror it about a line. So the first thing you need to do is actually put in a line. Put in some construction lines here, and I can just go from the center out to there. Remember, X is for construction. And now I can go mirror, and the things I want to select are these. So 2 objects, mirror line, this one here. You can see they appear over in this corner. Perfect. Go OK. And now I want to mirror again, and I can mirror around this line here to bring both of those down there. So mirror, select my geometry, and mirror line down at the bottom. Perfect. So the mirror tool is really handy. It does make it look a bit visually cluttered, but it's a really powerful tool, and we'll see how we can use that not just at the sketch level, but the body level and even the component level. Beautiful. And what I also want is a little line in here. So what I might do is create an offset from this. I want to make that 5 mil. Again, I'll turn that off from being a construction line. And now, once again, I'm going to mirror that about here. Perfect. And the only bits I want to bring up is this little profile in here. So you go finish sketch, turn back on bodies, and there we are. We've got all that geometry laid out at the bottom there. E for extrude, and I can bring up my sections here. That's looking pretty good. We're going to start our next component, a new component. We're going to call this grid. And notice as we've activated our grid, our other component goes to this kind of whited out view so that we can clearly see what we're working on. Our grid needs to start from the top of our lugs here, so we're going to go create sketch, and it's just going to be on top of that geometry. We can still access the geometry of other components. For my grid to fit inside of my shell, I need to make sure that I've left a bit of tolerance, because remember, our printer is never perfect. Once again, we're going to project that geometry in. Yeah, if I click in between those lines, it'll do the whole thing for me. Done. I can turn off these bodies. So now this is my in geometry. So of course I need to double click on that and hit O for offset. And you can use parameters if you like, but just for this project I'm going to use just like 0.2 mil, which means I know it'll comfortably fit inside. We're going to add some width to the outside of our grid first. Remember, you can't offset from an offset, so when we do this, we're going to select that original line that we're on, O for offset, I'm going to go 4.2 mil, and finish sketch, and we're going to turn back on bodies, and now we can bring that whole thing up, E for extrude, and we'll make that 2 mil thick. New body, that's what we want. Beautiful. And notice that if I go back to my main timeline, I've now got two components. They are color coded, and if you zoom in nice and close, you can see we've actually left that gap there. Perfect. Now to fill in the rest of our grid, we'll activate that component, go back into here, and we're going to edit our sketch. What we want is we want a bunch of rectangles making up our grid. Now, of course, we could just draw those rectangles manually, but I'm going to show you a combination of really cool tools that'll make it nice and efficient for us. First thing we're going to do is turn off those bodies, and we're going to draw a line, L for line, that crosses that span across our soap dish. So, we're going to create a rectangular pattern. This is really helpful. There's also a circular pattern here. This is really helpful for efficiently copying something that needs to be repeated again and again. Now, select my line, and what I want to do is come over here. I've got a couple of different options. I can determine the direction that's heading in, the extent, or I can do it by spacing. We're going to go extent, and I'm going to go in symmetric, which means that I can drag it out. 47 mil sounds good. We've got 3 lines now, so as I increment that, you'll go 4, 5, and as I increment that, it's going to try its best to symmetrically distribute those across the span. So 4, note, doesn't include the end bit here, but if I go to 5, then I have it in. So we'll keep going till it looks alright. We'll go 9. I think it looks fine. Go OK. Now, of course, at the moment, there's no thickness to any of that, but that's alright. You're going to finish the sketch. Now, sketch has disappeared, so we'll turn that back on. To generate that width, I'm going to come over here to Create, and we're going to go Web. I'm going to select all of these. Remember, going left means I select them all. And I want to add 2 mil. Now, it's coming up with errors, but if I flip the direction, there we are. So that's 2 mils in total. I might go 4 mil and go OK. I think that looks excellent. That was rectangular tool plus the web tool. And when you put it all together, turn that body back on, go back to our soap dish. We've now got a grid that perfectly fits our soap dish. And you can see in our man timeline, we've now got lovely color-coded sections that we can go back into be nice and clean. The beautiful thing about Fusion 360 is that you can always ask the question, well, what next? And it's easier to make those changes. So if you stick around for the next video, we'll do some minor improvements like adding a slope section and a drainage hole. But otherwise, you have now finished your third project.